Hey everybody, Dr. Orie Quinn here at Ozark Holistic Center, and today I wanted to go into answering one of the questions that came in through the platforms, and that has to do with sleep. The question was like, how do I get better sleep? I'm not being able to sleep, and their comment actually said that they had tried many different things and listed them out. So some of those were these. So melatonin, 5-HTP, another common supplement there. You have several different herbs out there, passion flower, chamomile, some of the teas and stuff that people try. They even mentioned doing sunlight therapy, which is waking up and watching the sun rise and then watching the sun set, which is very crucial and can help with circadian rhythms. So if you're listening out there and that's not something you have tried, I would absolutely try that to help with sleep cycle problems. Sleep cycle problems are a really common issue. It's a common complaint people come in with. It is a very difficult issue because when sleep isn't working, some of your recovery phases aren't working, your hormones are going to get thrown off, energy levels are going to drop, energy production levels are going to drop at like a cellular level because you're not actually going through the clearing processes at night that help to actually eliminate some of your body's own like byproducts or a lot of the toxicity in the body that has to be removed. So over time, not sleeping added up over time really makes the body very sluggish. And anytime people come in, they say like, I just have no energy. I'm tired all the time. I myself immediately think about sleep and I think about energy production cycles. Often what people state is a crucial part of their actual problem. So we've got to be able to sleep to make that work. And as an interesting kind of side note, because people always ask too, like how many hours of sleep should I get? That can be very individualized. In general, the research points out this idea of right, like 8 hours of sleep, which is what we heard growing up. I would say that really applies greatly to men and males. Kind of fit more in that like 8 is ideal. Some people can operate as low as like 6 hours of sleep. For a lot of women, and what the research is showing now is that, especially in relationship to cycles, that in certain points of the cycle, needing more hours of sleep at night, and how crucial that is again for the body's recovery cycles, energy production cycles. And so now looking at more of like 8 to 10 hours of sleep during certain points in the cycle. So just something to kind of think about. So I'm going to mention some of the factors that play a role into sleep. So one is removing stimuluses. So your activity level during the day, particularly with like blue screens, blue lights, cell phones, electronics, how often you're in front of them, how late in the day you're in front of them, play a really big role because you need this chance for the brain to actually like calm down at the end of the night. And so that is one thing to be aware of. So at least 30 minutes, and not more like an hour, try to turn off the cell phones, get off the computer screens, get off the televisions if you're really struggling to get to sleep. Some people, that doesn't affect them a whole lot. And so they're able to just watch TV to the moment they want to go to sleep, and then they go to sleep and it's all good. But if you're having struggle sleeping, make sure to look at that. So environmental factors. In terms of our chemistry, you have two main mechanisms that I've found as a practitioner that play a really big role in sleep cycles. So one is the most commonly talked about, which is the melatonin. So melatonin plays a big role in, well, shoot, actually I got more than two. Sorry, I'm going to back up because I got more than two different hormones we're going to talk about here. So melatonin plays a role in actually getting the brain, putting the body to sleep. So if your struggle is like, hey, I can't get to sleep, I lay down just awake, I'm like alert, boom. The answer could be melatonin. What's interesting about melatonin is it actually is produced via the serotonin pathways, and this is something that's probably not talked about enough. So everyone just comes in with a melatonin supplement, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I take enough of this, and I get to sleep." If you're needing melatonin, there's a really good chance that you're low in serotonin, which is a very crucial brain hormone when it comes to like not only do we talk about in terms of depression and anxiety, but like very heavily in terms of your connections with other people, how you feel about yourself, just like your mental and emotional state of being. And so that's often why you do see depression and sleep issues go hand in hand. And so oftentimes when people have sleep issues, they don't think about maybe being depressed, but that is a question mark that exists for sure, because if melatonin is low, serotonin is probably having a problem. And so you want to look at serotonin increase in production and then things that will do that. The other big hormone of the brain is called GABA. So if you're having a struggle staying asleep, a lot of times that's a GABA issue. So GABA is the main hormone of the brain, or neurotransmitter, that actually like calms the brain down. All the rest are very excitatory. Your body produces GABA, your brain produces it mostly while you sleep. And so there's a really bad like catch-22 there, that if you're not sleeping, you're not producing enough GABA, the brain stays overexcited, and then you're not sleeping some more. So it can be really crucial to kind of kickstart this off. GABA is an interesting one though, because it doesn't have a great absorption rate through the gut-blood barrier. And so you can kind of use products that are like what we call like liposomal GABA, which is what we use here in the office to try to bypass that. You also have to be very aware of all of its like cofactors in order to help the brain produce GABA. And so most often we look at those and say, hey, could there be a deficiency or need for more of these cofactors to help the brain produce more GABA? There you go. Another big player in sleep cycles is cortisol. So when you're awake first thing in the morning, cortisol levels hit their highest point, which are produced by the adrenal glands. This is a big role in what people call like adrenal fatigue, and overstressed, stuff like that. So cortisol hits its highest point first thing in the morning. As you go throughout the day, in particular as you eat food, cortisol drops incrementally. As it hits its kind of low point in the day, that helps put the body to sleep. That's part of sleep cycles. And cortisol plays a crucial role in terms of waking you up. So when you come out of sleep, it comes out by cortisol elevating and getting to a peak point. So when people actually awake sometimes in the middle of the night, it can be because cortisol jumps up and that wakes them up. And there can be a couple of different factors, the reasons why that can occur, and we'll talk about those. But normally, first thing in the morning, it comes up. So if when people tell me like, hey, doc, like I feel tired all day long, I can get, for example, 8 hours of sleep, but I wake up and I'm just still feeling exhausted. That tells me that more than likely their cortisol levels are not actually elevating enough, which is part of what brings you out of sleep, makes you alert, makes you awake. So we have to go look at adrenal glands and make sure that's working. In the middle of the night, if cortisol peaks, we have multiple possibilities here, but one of them can be that cortisol levels are just too high. So even though they're high point at the beginning of the day, they're like coming down, but they're not really hitting a true, like a really good low point. So you're getting low enough to put the body to sleep, but then it's actually starting to elevate again, let's say like 3 a.m. And so that brings you out of sleep and you're awake and alert and like good to go. Maybe not good to go, sorry, but like you're awake and you're like going. So that needs to be looked at. Are cortisol levels elevating too quick or not getting low enough? So you're staying in a too high of a stress mode, too high stress levels, and that cortisol level's got to come down. Cortisol, though, also is a response to dropping blood sugar levels. So another thing to be aware of. So some people go hypoglycemic in the middle of the night because it's been long enough that they haven't eaten. You have different factors in there in terms of how much fats, how much proteins are in your meal at the end of the day. Some of those things that can help with that. But if it's dropping out and going low, then your cortisol will actually spike in order to prevent these like true, like way too low of blood sugar levels, which would then be like very like a scary situation, right? Where people can like pass out. So naturally the cortisol levels will elevate and it actually helps offset that and allows the body to still operate even though this level is dropping. So it wakes you up, makes you more alert. You can get something to eat and get back to sleep. And that's actually one of the ways to test that is that when you do wake up, let's say at like 3 a.m. in the morning, if you want to go try to get something to eat and then your body's able to like feel better and calm back down, it very well could be a blood sugar problem. So you're actually putting more blood sugar in to your system, getting more blood sugar, and the body's unable to calm back down because it's no longer low. And so those are some of the things to look at. Sleep involves quite a bit of little like kind of trial and error through this like process. There are great things that you can run because you can run cortisol levels. You can run morning and evening cortisol levels. The way I like to do it most is salivary. So you get these like test kits. You send them out and you actually do salivary samples throughout the day. So we actually get a look at morning, afternoon, evening, late night times. And then you can get those back and just like track and see like where cortisol levels are. The serotonin and GABA are a little bit more difficult. And so that's where trial and error probably comes in a little bit more. There are some urine tests you can run. We do have them available that will actually give you a breakdown of like your serotonin metabolites and some of your GABA metabolites and look at maybe where those neurotransmitters are. Those tests are not foolproof. So they are good tests to have to give you like an indicator. But I wouldn't base all clinical applications like just on a test like that. And so going through and actually like testing the process can be also very helpful. Where we actually have people take melatonin, see the effects of that, have people take GABA, see the effects of that. Sometimes you'll start higher doses just to see what occurs, and you kind of come back and start to change from there. Once you realize that melatonin or GABA or the serotonin pathways or the GABA pathways are being effective in helping people sleep, then you definitely absolutely want to come in and look at like, okay, what is like low or deficient, or what in their lifestyle is affecting this, that it's not producing more serotonin and more GABA. And so that can be protein intake, that can be fat intake, that can be cofactor intakes, which are like vitamins and minerals and some of those things. And so that's just from like the biochemical standpoint. Other thing that I've seen as a practitioner over the years has to do with energy output in the day. So it's interesting, we kind of apply this concept to children, but then we don't often apply this concept to adults. So if you got a kid that has to just kind of, they sit all day long, I've seen this because I've got my own kids, right? Sit all day long, don't exert a ton of energy or a ton of output. And then they hit the end of the day and there's like in this weird phase where they actually kind of like act tired and they like feel like they're tired, but then you actually try to like lay them down and they like won't go to sleep. Like it just doesn't happen. Our bodies like want to exert energy throughout the day. And so especially if you're one that is, wakes up, you eat breakfast, you get in your car, you drive to work, especially if you're sitting at a day job in a chair all day long, get home, not doing a lot of physical output once you get home, and then you're trying to like go to sleep. That can be like really tough on the body. And so I've definitely seen this as a question I ask people, because if not, then we have to get routines in. And this is where a lot of your like workout routines, why so many people are like, oh yeah, wake up and first thing in the morning works actually really well for this, but so does the evening time. Like if you do it kind of later in the evening time, go out, do your thing, do your run, do your walk, do your exertion. It helps the body calm down, like energy output, muscle contractions. In the morning, some more of your like cardiovascular kind of stuff usually does like really great for this, because it kind of makes your body more alert, more blood flow, more oxygen, like boom, good for the day. In the evening time, it's interesting, everyone's different, but some people do awesome with aerobic exercise in the evening time. Most people I find do way better with more of your like your stuff, kind of like yoga or Pilates. The group I love the most is called foundation training. I suggest that to people all the time, but it's like a breathing plus muscle contraction, like isometric, plyometric kind of concept, all in one. And so it's like a lot of exertion and a lot of muscle contraction and fatigue in a pretty relatively short period of time. And so then that kind of just like burns through a bunch of energy, lets the body like calm down, and that absolutely can help as well. I realize I'm going to keep going, but this is a huge subject, right? So then your next one, talk about breathing exercises as well. I'm trying to create a routine. Certain breathing exercises definitely help like calm the brain, calm the body. So I like the combinations of both. Like I mentioned, foundation training that does movement and contraction, but also a lot of breathing work or breath work. And the two go like really well hand in hand. So I do have people do that for sure if sleep is an issue. We look at those other things like I mentioned, and if we can assess them, we do assess them. If not, we have to go into a little bit of trial and error with some of those supplementations in order to piece that together. But normally sleep is definitely something that can be helped, corrected, and find the right patterns to get the body back into its right rhythms. And so you're actually getting the sleep your body needs, which is so absolutely crucial for you. So that's a lot there, lots to unpack. I hope that's helpful. And if you got any more questions coming from this video, please just shoot it over to us and we'll answer those. Thanks.